Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Ange Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about free agency recap for day 2 of the 2020 free agency frenzy. And on today's episode, we're talking about, first and foremost, Tom Brady, formerly of the New England Patriots, signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this offseason for a 1-year, $30 million deal. This is incredible news. This is something that we've heard a lot of speculation about. So what I want to do is talk about this, talk about the fantasy football implications going into the 2020 season, who stands to gain the most out of this, where potentially we could see Jameis Winston landing this offseason, and who's going to be the potential successor to Tom Brady in New England. This is a lot of questions. Then after that, we're going to be going over the recap of who's signed deals in the last coming hours, in the past 24 hours, in fact, for day 2, and talking about any trades that took place in terms of impacting fantasy and the upcoming NFL season. So let's get right into it, shall we? Hey, everybody, how's it going? All right, really quickly, first and foremost, just want to let everybody know, timestamps down below in the description of the video. They're always there. It's going to always be there. So if you're looking for something in specific, you can go and find that. So let's talk about Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This was a long time coming. We've heard a lot of rumors the entire offseason, potentially of Bill Belichick wanting to move on from Tom Brady, and whether or not Bob Kraft was going to allow that to happen. And it's official, considering the fact that we got to this point with Tom Brady not getting a contract from the Patriots. We all knew it was coming. But the crazy surprise was landing in Tampa Bay, because we heard the Chargers, we heard the Raiders. He's going to stay on the East Coast. He's going to stay in Florida. And he's going to be the new quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is exciting because there's a lot of fantasy potential and a lot of implications that we got to talk about. But really quickly, first and foremost, I want to say, the New England Patriots, I know they wanted to move on from Tom Brady. I know last year they really tried to make a push. They went and got Antonio Brown to try to help out Tom Brady, to maybe get one last hurrah at it. But the thing was, in the last couple seasons, the Patriots have been slowly moving away from Tom Brady. They've lost a lot of help in terms of the offensive positions. I mean, in terms of losing offensive linemen, in back-to-back seasons, in 2017, 2018, he lost his starting left tackle back-to-back. Nate Solder went to the Giants, and then the other left tackle went to the Raiders. I mean, we've seen a lot of his talent around him continue to disappear. In terms of the receiver or running back position, we've seen, guys like Dion Lewis up and go. LeGarrette Blount gone, Mike Gillislee gone, Jeremy Hill gone. At the wide receiver position, Brandon Cooks was traded away, Rob Gronkowski retired, and Amendola gone. Cordell Patterson, despite how much he contributed, he was still a good part of this offense. Josh Gordon gone, Dwayne Allen at the tight end position, Martellus Bennett at the tight end position. We've seen so many pieces here completely disappear. And even last year, his starting center out for the season. James Devlin missed majority of the season with his injury. Chris Hogan, wide receiver, was gone. I mean, all of the pieces surrounding Brady progressively dwindled off, and they were transitioning to this point. I respect the decision. I don't know exactly where they're going with their quarterback position in the coming years, but Belichick is a mastermind. But what I wanted to go ahead and do is I want to talk about what exactly Tom Brady was able to accomplish in the last couple of years, and why going to Tampa Bay has a promising outcome, in my opinion, in terms of fantasy football. Now, when we go back and we look at 2017, Tom Brady finishes the number 3 overall quarterback in 4-point per passing touchdown formats with 32 total touchdowns. A great performance overall, the number 3 guy. Going into the following year in 2018 in a 4-point per passing touchdown format, we saw him complete one less touchdown in the season, yet he finishes the number 14 overall quarterback. Yes, there was a huge jump in talent at the quarterback position in 2018. And in terms of fantasy points scored, that was a legendary record-breaking season for the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver position. A lot of guys had monster years that year, and that's what kind of set back Tom Brady in the eyes of many in terms of fantasy. But in 2019, this past season, despite all of the mess that was surrounding him. Yes, you wanted to bring in N'Keal Harry with a first-round pick. You went and got yourself a guy like Mohamed Sanu and traded for him. Just that wasn't enough, despite how much Edelman continued to produce on a consistent basis. Tom Brady still finishes the number 12 overall quarterback in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, and the number 12 overall quarterback in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, yet having a very shaky season, in my opinion. That being said, if he's able to produce the way he did last season in an offense that is with the personnel of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with a Chris Godwin, with a Mike Evans, with the running back help there, with the tight end duo of Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard, there is a lot of potential for Tom Brady to have an incredible season in 2020 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's talk about it straight away. First and foremost, a lot of you know that I am a huge fan of drafting players from the NFC South. The division of the Falcons, Panthers, Saints, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers is an extremely explosive offensive division. I mean, when we're talking about Drew Brees, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, and the plethora of wide receivers and running backs that they have, this is offensive explosivity at its finest. And on a consistent yearly basis, when these teams play, it is shootouts left and right. Now, Cam Newton may no longer be in the division. We have ourselves Teddy Bridgewater coming in there. Brand new news. And then we have Tom Brady coming in for Jameis Winston. And I don't think that the shootouts are going to lack any more than they did in the past. I think we are going to consistently see shootouts, and it's going to be an extremely exciting division. This helps Tom Brady's fantasy value joining a division like this. Obviously, he was playing in a division where he could completely destroy defenses, but as of late, that Bills defense was getting under his skin and really giving him some trouble here and there. So again, coming over here, obviously there's some defensive pieces, here and there, but overall, this is about outscoring teams, and that's exactly what we want to see in terms of fantasy. So let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers personnel overall. Offensively, the number 1 and 2 wide receiver are the first names that are thrown out in tandem. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, perhaps the best wide receiver duo in the National Football League at this moment in time. These two guys are coming off of incredible seasons, yet both of them missed significant time late in the season, missed 5 total games combined between the two of them. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were absolutely incredible. Godwin with 121 targets, 86 receptions for 1,333 yards, and 9 receiving touchdowns. Mike Evans, even though he started off with a shaky start, finished the season with 118 targets, 67 receptions for 1,157 yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. I mean, Mike Evans, on a yearly basis, this is a dude that's getting over 1,000 receiving yards every year of his career. That's a given. The guy is a huge target. And the last time I remember Tom Brady being able to throw to a guy with this stature, 6'5", plus, it's a Gronk, but at the wide receiver position, it's going to work perfectly, and I cannot wait to see that tandem grow. Also, Chris Godwin, you can line him up just about anywhere in the offense. He can serve as the Edelman of this offense. And in my opinion, what he was able to contribute last season, the promise that he showed, and the way that Bruce Arians kind of developed him and transformed him into the Larry Fitzgerald, quote unquote, in this offense, that's exactly what we want to see. And hopefully, we're going to continue to see that in this coming season as long as these guys stay healthy. On top of it, the wide receiver position doesn't stop there. Last year, we saw Brashard Perriman, Justin Watson, Scotty Miller. There are a lot of low-key wide receivers in this offense that were able to make plays on a consistent basis, but you just didn't really hear their names because they were being overshadowed by the number 1 and 2 of this offense. Brashard Perriman was on a 1-year deal. I'm not sure if they're going to bring him back, but even if they don't, Justin Watson, Scotty Miller, these are two guys that are serviceable, and especially Watson late in the season when these two top-tier wide receivers, Godwin and Evans, went down, he came in and he was an actual contributor to this offense, and I was pretty excited to see that in terms of fantasy production. Speaking about fantasy production and more receivers in this offense, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. I understand O.J. Howard had a huge slump of a season last year. In 2018, despite being hurt for majority of that season, he was an incredible fantasy performer. He averaged 10-plus fantasy points per game when healthy, and we expected that to kind of transition into 2019, but unfortunately weren't able to find anything there. But Tom Brady, we know he loves to use the tight end position. This is going to be one of his more exciting, combinations, because then we'll get more life at the tight end position and potential there. Outside of that, the running back position in Tampa Bay, personnel-wise, Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones is the future of this backfield, right? But I'm hoping we go and we sign somebody else. Melvin Gordon, maybe. Devontae Freeman. Just somebody that can catch the ball out of the backfield. We saw with Brady in New England. We've seen James White be his number 1 target. I mean, 2018, you go back, you look at what James White was able to produce when Sony Michel was out and Edelman was suspended for early in the season. We saw James White take over this offense and be the main contributor. And I expect to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially with Bruce Arians, the amount of times he loves to throw the ball out of the backfield to guys like David Johnson back in Arizona, and then Daragumba Wale, obviously last season was kind of their pass catcher. 100% expect to see them go get a pass catching back. Hopefully, maybe we go get like a Dion Lewis. He's a free agent at this moment in time. This is a guy that's worked with Brady. Anybody that's cheap and as of right now can contribute in this team would be fantastic. So when we think about the fantasy production going into 2020, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were already top 5 wide receivers last season in half PPR, despite missing the 5 total games between the both of them. Chris Godwin was still the number 2 wide receiver, and it wasn't even close. The way I see it, these guys are just going to continue to have their stock grow. They're going to still be top 5 wide receivers because of this. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of a worriness. Is Tom Brady washed up? Is he going to, be able to produce? If Jameis Winston can technically come into this offense and throw 30 interceptions and still be the number 3 overall quarterback in a 4-point per passing touchdown league and a number 6 overall quarterback in a 6-point per passing touchdown format, then you cannot tell me that Tom Brady is going to come in here and stink up the joint. That is absolutely not a possibility. We saw Jameis Winston play horribly last year. Many times just throwing the ball to the opposing team. Thank God he got LASIK. He's still a free agent for a reason. I'm telling you, the fact that Tom Brady is joining this team, the leadership, the knowledge that he's going to distribute to this team, to the wide receiver position, it is going to make a huge difference. Offensively, I am extremely excited for this team. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, these are guys that are going to be taken in the second round of drafts, certainly after Michael Thomas, but it is going to be an exciting thing to see them come off the board quite early. But overall, Tom Brady, in my opinion, like I was mentioning, if we can get Jameis Winston to throw 30 interceptions and still be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy, I can't wait to see what Tom Brady can do. I know many of us like to see running quarterbacks be our guys, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Kyler Murray. Now that these guys have gotten these wide receiver 1 talent increases, Patrick Mahomes being able to run the ball, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott. Sure, Brady can't run the ball. He can't get you those points, but he's going to be able to do it with his arm this year. I'm extremely excited to see that, and I can't wait. Overall, outside of that, who's going to be filling in the spots for Tom Brady in New England? A lot of rumors have gone around considering the fact that Phillip Rivers is now the new starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. We will potentially see Jacoby Brissett end up with the New England Patriots again. Remember, Jacoby Brissett was drafted by the New England Patriots years back, then traded away prior to the departure of Jimmy Garoppolo. So they got rid of him, sent him over to the Colts, and obviously it hasn't gone well, but he could potentially go back and help them tank a couple games here and there in order to help them get a higher pick in the 2021 draft. Again, Trevor Lawrence is still out there. There's a lot of quarterbacks. Maybe they want to draft one this offseason. Maybe they're going to try to trade up and draft a Tua Tagovailoa. But either way, at this moment in time, it's exciting to see Brady with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Jacoby Brissett will fill in the spot in New England. Jameis Winston sits on the bubble. Where is he going to land? I think there's a potential that Chicago could land him. Now that Cam Newton is also a free agent quarterback, potentially looking and seeking for trades, we could end up seeing. I don't think Jameis is going to be going to the Chargers. The Chargers don't want to give away one interception machine of a quarterback for another. I don't think that's where they want to go. So I think in terms of Jameis Winston, the market is pretty tight. I don't think he's going to go to Miami. I think they're comfortable with Ryan Fitzpatrick and then the rookie that they're going to draft this year. I don't know. At this point in time, it's looking like a pretty desolate wasteland in terms of potential places that he could land and contribute immediately. Obviously, there's a lot of teams out there that are in need of better quarterbacks, but they also want to take a shot at improving the quarterbacks they currently have. Like Dwayne Haskins needs to have time to progress and to get better. And throwing a Jameis in front of him is not going to do that for him. So again, Jameis sits on a weird bubble right now. I don't know who's going to be able to pop that and take him and use him to the best of his ability, but it's going to be very interesting. I think It's just a matter of time until we see where he exactly lands. But again, he is a capable quarterback. He's not horrible. Again, he finishes the number 3 overall quarterback in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues for a reason, but he's got to have the pieces around him to help him out. Otherwise, that interception number is only going to go up. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Let's close out today's video talking about the free agency signings of this afternoon, talking about everything that I didn't mention yesterday because it hadn't already been done. So, first and foremost, let's start off with the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals shoring up their defense, signing Jordan Phillips, the defensive tackle of, former defensive tackle of the Buffalo Bills. They're going ahead and locking him down. Again, the Arizona Cardinals need to do a lot on defense. A lot of people may think, yeah, their offense is looking a lot better. But defensively, again, this is a team that could not stop the tight end position last year, could not stop the run at very many occasions. Their secondary still has some talent there. But again, they definitely got to reassure their defense. The Rams haven't done anything. The San Francisco 49ers, they went ahead and re-signed Ronald Blair, defensive tackle, restructured Jerick McKinnon's contract. Again, when I was talking about contracts the other day with Austin Eckler's video, if you haven't gone and checked that out, Jerick McKinnon was one of the higher paid running backs in the National Football League, and he hadn't played a single down for the San Francisco 49ers. So they restructured his contract, obviously, for good reasoning. They also put Matt Breida on a second-round tender, and they also tendered Kendrick Bourne. So if somebody else wants to go ahead and sign them, they have the opportunity to match. And if they want to match, they get a pick for it. Seattle Seahawks didn't do anything this afternoon that I've seen. Atlanta Falcons, none. The Saints, yeah. Drew Brees. I was mentioning yesterday, they're focusing on quarterbacks. The domino fell. Drew Brees, 2-year deal. And then thus forward, we saw the Carolina Panthers snag Teddy Bridgewater, 3 years, $60 million deal. Again, the Drew Brees deal, 2 years. It's very important to note that. Also, we'll probably see Cam Newton be traded in the coming days. Outside of that, they re-signed Trey Boston for the Carolina Panthers secondary. Tom Brady going to the Patriots, moving on. The Chicago Bears, they signed Robert Quinn. Now, the interesting thing, a lot of players on that Dallas Cowboys defense are disappearing. Robert Quinn, one of them. Byron Jones, yesterday we saw disappear. We're going to mention a couple other guys later in this video that are disappearing. It's going to make it a lot more difficult for this team to defensively handle, this upcoming season. It's going to be quite the struggle for them, in my opinion. Moving on. The Green Bay Packers, they've lost a couple talented defensive pieces here and there. They're signing some guys. They re-signed Alan Lazard. That's fine, but I need to see them draft or at least sign a wide receiver in the coming days. Maybe Robbie Anderson. Something of that extent would make me excited. Moving on to the NFC East, the Cowboys again. They re-signed Sean Lee. They signed Darian Thompson to an extended deal as a DB. That's fine, whatever. The Philadelphia Eagles, in their secondary, they're re-signing Jalen Mills, Rodney McLeod. I think they let Malcolm Jenkins go. That's perfectly fine. But he was a leader in that secondary. That's fine. Their secondary is still as suspect as usual. I'm still going to go after that in terms of if I want to play against it in fantasy. That's a defense and a secondary that has just been a mess. Thomas Davis is reuniting with Riverboat Ron Rivera in Washington for the Redskins. So that's an exciting duo coming back together. And then we see, interestingly enough, we mentioned it yesterday, the New York Giants, they went ahead and they brought in James Bradbury. They brought in the middle linebacker for the Packers, Blake Martinez. They tagged Leonard Williams. Fantastic. They're bringing in Jeff. Jeff Heath is going to the Raiders, right? Yeah. This is a misclick. Sorry. But Jeff Heath is going to the Raiders. Kyler Fackrell, the other linebacker formerly of the Green Bay Packers, is coming over to the New York Giants as well. This defense is little by little bringing in pieces and making themselves look like a potential defense that you don't really want to mess with. Exciting to see. Moving on, in the AFC West, outside of the Chargers signing Brian Bulaga, which is absolutely fantastic. We talk about the Packers signing Rick Wagner for a reason, because Brian Bulaga was going to move the Chargers. Whoever their quarterback is going to be, you for sure have a solid right tackle that is going to feast on defenders on a consistent basis. So that's exciting to see. The Chiefs haven't really done much. The Broncos, kind of quiet here and there. They were losing some pieces here and there in free agency. But the Raiders, again, like I mentioned, Heath. What's the name? Jeff Heath. the safety for the Cowboys, he's going over to the Raiders. Corey Littleton, middle linebacker, mainly known for coverage for the Rams, he's going to the Raiders. Jason Witten of the Cowboys going to the Raiders. Malik Collins, defensive tackle for the Cowboys, going to the Raiders. Carl Nassib, defensive end, a guy that played in Cleveland for a couple years, went down to Tampa Bay last year. Tall, lanky, and potentially a good pass rush and a rotation guy with a guy like Max Crosby there. Not a bad deal for the Raiders over here. Moving on. Titans signed Vic Beasley, formerly of the Atlanta Falcons. This is a guy that could play the 3-4 defense and be a defensive end or a stand-up outside linebacker, still play coverage. So he fits perfectly there. The Colts got Phillip Rivers, like I mentioned earlier. Joe Schobert. Interestingly enough, the Jaguars went and signed a middle linebacker, mainly known for his coverage game. Not really a fill the gap kind of linebacker here and there. He's more like a just a coverage guy, plain and simple. Interestingly enough, they went and they signed him. They also signed Darqueze Dennard, the defensive back. Here and there, they're trying to rebuild. It's just, I don't know if they're going to get it done. Moving on, the Texans signed Vernon Hargreaves. They traded for him last season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hargreaves was a mess. Traded for him. The Texans kind of got the best out of him for the remaining week, so that's good. Moving on to the AFC North, the Ravens. They re-signed Justin Ellis. Again, like I mentioned yesterday, when you're re-signing, guys or franchise tagging like a Matt Judon, when you're bringing in Calais Campbell, when you're re-signing a guy like Justin Ellis, your defensive line is going to be absolutely stacked. I am afraid of this defensive line. And if I'm in this division, if I'm in the AFC North, I better be reassuring my offensive line because otherwise we're going to be in trouble. So reassuring offensive lines and reassuring protection schemes, that's what the Steelers are going after. Yes, they've lost a couple pieces here to retirement and free agency signings, but they're bringing in Derek Watt, fullback, formerly of the Los Angeles Chargers. So we have two Watts on one team. Maybe JJ wants to join them in Pittsburgh. But outside of that, Zach Banner, offensive tackle, signed for a 1-year extension. And then we have the Browns making a deal via trade with the Broncos and getting Andy Janovich. That is a fullback that they are absolutely going to need. Now, like I mentioned yesterday with the video, they brought in Austin Hooper for a reason, and they also signed a guy like Jack Conklin for a reason. They want to run the ball. Nick Chubb is going to be the hammer, and the defenses are going to be the nail. Stefanski absolutely wants to run the ball. He used C.J. Ham exclusively last season with double tight end sets, just running pitch off. The pitch, the counter, the sweep, the power, it does not matter. They're going to run the ball down defenders' throats. Obviously, the Ravens are getting ready for that. But Andy Janovich, a very good fullback and a great addition to this Browns offense. Moving on, in terms of the Bengals, DJ Reader, defensive tackle, a guy that could absolutely stop the run, joins them from the Houston Texans. And then we had Trey Waynes, cornerback, a guy that was absolutely fantastic last season for the Vikings, joining the secondary for the Bengals, who, in my opinion, they didn't really have that bad of a secondary last year. But the stopping the run was mainly their problem. And the last division that we want to talk about, the Patriots, haven't really done much. The Jets brought in two offensive pieces, but not the ones you may have thought. They bring in offensive linemen to protect the future of their franchise. Alex Lewis being re-signed for an extension for 3 years. He plays guard for the team. And then they bring in Connor McGovern, center, sign him for a couple-year deal. And I think they're going to be ready to go here. Again, that's 3 offensive lineman signings with George Fant from yesterday. Moving on, we have the Bills extending Jordan Pointer for an extended contract, signing a couple linebackers here and there, and the Dolphins going ahead and adding more defensive positions like we talked about yesterday. You bring in Byron Jones, you bring in Kyle Van Noy. That's already 2 great leaders of the defense. Then you bring in Shaq Lawson from inside the division from the Bills. Now you go again and you get Emmanuel Ogbah from the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs as a defensive tackle. Fantastic. You bring in a linebacker, and now they've signed their running back. 2 years, $10 million. Jordan Howard will be the starting running back of this team for the Dolphins. Man, it's going to be exciting. I love football. Despite all the lack of sports that is going around right now, hopefully this is keeping you guys entertained. Thank you everybody for watching. This was the Day 2 recap for the 2020 Free Agency Frenzy. Until tomorrow, maybe perhaps later tonight, another deal is struck. But either way, Thank you everybody for watching. Like the video, subscribe if you have not already for more content. Let me know down below in the description what you guys think is the best free agency signing thus far this season. Offense, defense, fantasy, really doesn't matter. And who you think, potentially has already won free agency. Is it the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is it the Cardinals? Is it the Bills? We're just going to have to wait and see. Let me know. I'll see you guys. Peace.